Awesome. So we're 1:31 and we will start the committee of the whole meeting. I will start with just letting you know that for the public health orders, when we're speaking, we can remove our masks, so for clarity, in which I'm doing now. And we'd like to acknowledge that we are privileged to meet on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Squamish and the Chatelain Nations. With that, we have a recommendation for our agenda.
That the agenda of this meeting be approved.
Ian, second by Rachel. All in favor? And that is carried. We've got some minutes for acceptance.
That the minutes of the special committee of the whole meeting held on September 1st, 2021 be adopted.
Thank you, Rachel. Second by Ian. All in favor? And carried. Trustee items. I don't think there are any. So that brings us to our information items. Trustee calendar and upcoming events.
Rebecca. Okay, so I'm not sure if anyone's had a chance to take a look at these. I'm just going to go over the dates again from the last time. So September 20th, we have the STA Provincial Council motion submission deadline. So we'll talk to that again in a few moments. September 23rd, just a reminder that that is the day that the exam staff welcome barbecue being held at the Squamish Valley Golf Country Club. And wanted to provide a reminder that if you are attending, please ensure that you have your vaccine passport available. Otherwise, you will not be allowed in. They will be checking for your vaccine documentation. And the next date is September 27th. There's a DPAC meeting from 6 to 8, and that will be, I believe, Ian and Dave. And that meeting is now confirmed to be over Zoom. September 29th, we have scheduled an extra board meeting day if required. So as far as we know, right now we're not required to have a board meeting for that day. And then the same day we have from 10:30 to 12:30 superintendent recruitment shortlist meeting that day.
And that will be via Zoom, providing we don't have to have an extra board meeting. At this point.
And then October 5th will be the agenda setting meeting, and that will be with the board, or the district staff and Rebecca and Cynthia. From 10:30. October 6th, we have another superintendent recruitment first round of interviews. So that will be an all-day booking for that day. And then October 13th, we've just set this as a placeholder, the first education session, so which we will be discussing the format and whatnot here in a little bit. And so that is also booked off as a board. That's a board meeting day. Okay. October 14th, Rebecca scheduled in from 8:30 to 4:30 at the CSTA board chairs meeting. And then October 15th, is the MOE partner liaison meeting. And so that's, I think, Cynthia, for you to be attending.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm sorry, was that virtual or was that in person?
It's in person.
It is in person. Okay, great. I thought so. I just wanted to double check. Great. Thank you.
And then October 20th, another full day superintendent recruitment, second outreach reviews scheduled. Then October 23rd, we have BC STA Provincial Council, but that will be via Zoom. That's for you, Ian. October 27th, Wednesday, we have that set aside as an extra board meeting day if required. So far, as far as we know, as of today, there's nothing that needs to be met for that day. And then in your calendars, we have these learning plan review sessions and play recognition lunch. So that's for October 27th. I think everybody has that already on their calendars. So hopefully everybody knows which ones they're attending.
I think the invites were all sent out specific,
Great.
and I'm trading off. I'm attending more than all. So I won't be here.
Great. And then November 2nd, the agenda setting. So Rebecca and Cynthia. November 4th. This is for BCPSCA symposium. It has to be determined, so I'm not sure if that means they have a determined format. No? Is that correct, Rosie?
It's virtual, just letting more.
Oh, okay, it's virtual. So that's for the November 4th and 5th, so it's a 2-day session for you, Cynthia?
Yeah.
And November 8th, we have a DPAC meeting. So I have, that one is in Whistler, possibly, but Zoom will definitely be available. That's from 6 to 8, and I have Ian and Dave for that one. And then November 10th, we have a board meeting, that's the regular board meeting. And then there's also an employee recognition lunch scheduled for the same day. That's for school board office staff and maintenance transportation cell. November 17th, we have a whole bunch of sessions booked for school learning planners and employee recognition lunches. And then November 24th, we have an all-day extra board meeting day scheduled if required. And then that day is also filled up with school learning plan reviews and recognition lunches. November 24th, there's a school learning plan review for Whistler Secondary School. And November 26th, there's an Indigenous Education Council from 10 till 2, and I believe that's Rachel and Rebecca will be attending those. That one. Marie. November 30th, another agenda setting. And December 2nd, we have December 2nd and 3rd, the BCSA Trustee Academy. So I think we've already received a notification from everybody if they're going to be able to make it or not. So thank you for that. Motion, sorry, it's a 3-day session. So, and then December 8th, there's an education session. That's just a placeholder. So we'll have more discussion on the education sessions shortly. And there's also, that's a scheduled board meeting day. And at the same time that evening, there's a scheduled Whistler custodial employee recognition dinner. That's it.
So I'm guessing that December 8th meeting then is the board is meeting in Whistler.
Yes.
That was designed here.
Yes.
Very important note.
So, any questions on trustee calendar upcoming events?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we know, I'm sorry, and my apologies if we've discussed this, I just can't quite recall, what the topics will be for each of the, did we decide yet?
We have that coming up.
Okay.
On the agenda. One of the agendas. Okay, so that was our trustee calendar upcoming events. Next, we have up our action item list.
Yeah, so for the action item list, we only have one item on there, and that's for the minor capital submission, which Ian will be speaking to in the open board meeting.
Okay, perfect. So that's done. Then we have our board work plan. And tentative meeting dates for the board. Committees. You want to talk through the board work plan, Danielle?
I haven't, this I believe is just been filled in with everything that's what is required of us in the next few months. So I haven't gone into it personally in detail, but you can take a look and these are some of the due dates and tasks and everything that's required. So some of these things we are seeing throughout the day that we're going to be touching on. So if anybody feels free, really to take a look through that. If you see anything we missed, but basically we use this to fill in the calendar, right? So this kind of works into conjunction. But this also includes some of our internal tasks that we're working on, so. Does anyone have any questions about that?
And then I guess much the same with the committee meeting dates.
Yeah, so for the most part, we did our best to figure out the dates based on last year's dates, and then some of them are just placeholders. So if something doesn't work for you, please let us know for date wise, as we could move some things around. Like for instance, with the finance dates, we kept them the same as last year's because we'll be meeting on the same things as last year. So if something doesn't work, and then I think we didn't add the DPAC stuff because we'll add that in as required. Is that correct, Chris?
So yeah, on the, it's actually a 2-page doc, so at the bottom you see it's the GPAC Inclusion Committee, TBD, and that's because we're still working with GPAC to settle on some days. So we'll get those folks, Ian and Dave, as soon as possible.
Awesome. Close that off. Any questions or anything? No. Okay, so we're moving on to item 6, the discussion items. So motions for the BCSDA Provincial Council. And who is speaking to this? Can you speak to this one, or were you talking with Cynthia?
Well, so basically, this is just a reminder that September 20th is the deadline for the motions for this, and they're supposed to be in emergent nature. So Cynthia had a suggestion for last time, and she just wanted to clarify or bring her comments about that.
Yeah, I can just follow up on that. I just did a little work and it does not look like it is an emergent issue at this point. So the idea was to perhaps draft a motion about fully funding the Seamless Day Childcare Program. It is indeed not fully funded at this point, but it is not an emergent issue, so we can wait until AGM. If we so choose.
Okay. So if anyone thinks of anything an emergent nature, then that is deadline is September 20th. So moving on to 6B, the board education sessions. And say good to you, Daniela.
Yeah, so we just wanted to have a discussion in general about, first of all, Celeste had mentioned that we could consider having these on a non-board meeting day, so we just want to have a discussion. There's a couple things we wanted to discuss first. That was one of the things. Secondly, we want to discuss if we can sort of prioritize and combine or decide what the topics will be, because we have about 5 and we're hoping to get it down to about 3 or 4. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing would be just a discussion on whether we should have them virtual versus in person, or what kind of format you would like. And how often and when, like basically trying to schedule that, what works for everybody. So maybe we'll start with, we can just start with, would you prefer, just in general, the board, everybody could give their opinion on if they would prefer to be on a different meeting day from the board meetings or on the same day.
I might suggest that we look at their topics
First.
and then that the topic will determine whether it needs to be its own day or if it can be combined with something else. Kind of where I'm thinking. Yeah.
Everybody's okay with that?
No, somebody not, so.
Perfect. We're gonna do that. Okay. So, does everybody know what the proposed topics are?
We talked about it, it came out of the survey. We could hear them again.
Okay, sure.
If you go on the link
Okay.
in the agenda, it'll bring you to our growth plan. And at the bottom, it has the recommendations.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Does it read on it?
No, you know what, like, this isn't my expertise, this is your expertise, so feel free to, you can start on.
No, I think you got the word.
Objective one,
I think we need to click one.
Maybe we'll just give it a minute.
Yeah.
under the growth plan.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Objective 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
This isn't.
Dave's
on my-
good.
It's not
I
my.
saw that. I thought, oh, you. Thank you.
I just.
All right, so we have 5 items listed, and I think we were gonna maybe narrow it down to 3 or 4, if we can for this year. The items that we have are equity and truth and reconciliation. And interestingly enough, that we had that come up, and then since then, we've had all the residential school discoveries and such, so. Personally, would like to see that one stay on the list to learn more about it. Then we had experiential learning, the IEP process for a child and a family, ombudsman training and procedural fairness, natural justice, and administrative law. And then continue to have staff walk the board through key operational matters linked to their governance. Example, school board, school budget workbooks, retention and acceleration procedures, student placement, etc. We'll open it up for discussion. I don't really know where to go with this piece. Help. Yeah.
I could jump in and just, I could say, just add to it, I'm also super interested in maybe taking a bit of time to explore further the IEP process for a child and a family. That's something that I would be interested in learning a little bit more about. If I could, if I were only allowed to pick one out of the whole list, I would pick that one. And then, of course, I do want to hear more about truth and reconciliation because that's such a pertinent topic right now. But then that would be 2 picks. So I don't know if you want to.
No, I want it too, or I just think we're just in general talking about it. I guess we need to look at how many we want to do in a year. Like I can't see us doing something every month or maybe every 3 months or something like that. Any thoughts on it?
That sounds about right.
Every 3 months?
Man.
Yeah.
I think that in terms of timing, I was gonna say, I think the IEP process, we've got inclusion committees being formed, and so I think that the time is now. I would also be very interested if we do prioritize a session on IEP process to have, I know that Philip Park recently gave a presentation on this, and I don't know how appropriate that presentation would be for the board. But I would be super interested in hearing from an external agency like Inclusion BC, just to get the perspective of stakeholders that might understand where the gaps are and what can be changed in the system to better support families. So if that's possible, that would be very interesting.
Could almost be a two-part process.
I would suggest that it would be important to know both of those, both where the gaps are is a great question. And Inclusion BC might be a good partner for that, probably would be. But also you need to know the philosophy of how people are working with teams and families here on the ground and what his goals are for those teams to really be connecting with families. So I think you do both. And actually even the experiential learning, depending on what the format you take, it's just that it's not tied to the IEP process, but you could have maybe kind of like a learning services day, or either one of those could be a half day, I would suggest. Anyways, that's just an idea that jumps out. The other thing, since I'm just saying a few things here, I'm wondering if any of these topics, especially bullet number 4, might be being covered through BCSDA at all, like your learning sessions there. I haven't looked at the conference, no?
I don't know.
Yeah. That would be a great topic, I'm sure, for all kinds of trustees, lots of trustees.
Yeah.
Is the officer training, is that available independently or I think we discovered it's free, I believe. So can people just log on to that? Does anyone know?
Yeah, they do it with organizations, so I think that it's meant to be a group.
So it's interactive,
Yeah,
not
I mean,
online.
there's certainly literature that you can access independently, for sure, there's tons of it, but I think that it's meant to be a group activity.
Okay. Because I think that would be an interesting one to take part in too. I don't know, now we have, you spoke to 4.
Yeah, and I would suggest that we have some room in there in case something relevant comes up during the year that we can say, okay, we do have some space. I would also encourage the meetings to be on that 4th Wednesday. We've moved it around, and so you're never quite sure. We were told to say, the 2nd and the 4th. And I'd suggest not putting them as part of the regular board meeting. I think we already cover so much
Yeah.
that for us to do justice to it, we just don't.
And if I may, I'll mention
Yeah.
from staff perspective, and thanks for that, just a friendly reminder for folks that may not know, I can't recall who's still here, but your district staff, senior staff, we have done the training together as a group, so.
The ombudsman?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, and it's got a lot of really great information, and yeah, it's a fantastic idea for to familiarize themselves with it.
So I guess then we're looking at the end of November for our first one? Is that what we're looking at? And then February?
Staff can come back with a.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Well, they'll know when would be appropriate to do.
Well, it sounds like we can combine a couple of these
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So we may not have to remove any of the topics. Staff comfortable with taking that? Somebody? Who's coming this week? Marilyn? Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. That satisfy the rest of the trustees? You guys are good? That brings us to adjournment.
You're good, you're good.
I determined that we have completed the agenda and we are now adjourned.
Well
We
done.
have to log out and log back in.